Hey guys, it's been a minute. My apologies for taking forever to actually upload another video. I'm tired, guys. I'm really tired. What time is it? It's 11:09 p.m. right now, but it's been a while. Some things have happened, and I just wanted to get you caught up on the news. Let's do that. Of course, I'm diving into the NACS transition again because pretty much one of the most exciting things in the industry I can talk about right now. Because seriously, when it comes to talking about any other electric cars, all anyone wants to talk about in the EV industry nowadays is effectively, there's two things actually. It's either the i90 surge on out-of-spec motoring, which that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, or the other unfortunate thing, which has been another reason why I've not been filming a lot for this channel as of late. Politics. EVs and politics. Man, do I wish that they never mixed in the first place. But we're not focusing on politics. We're focusing on the NACS transition. So let's continue on the NACS transition. We now have Volvo and Polestar vehicles officially charging on the supercharger network in the exact same method that GM vehicles charge on the supercharger network. Of course, at the moment, it's via an adapter provided by Tesla and no plug-in charge again, unfortunately. You know, I'm realizing this time around that the reason why we saw plug-in charge with Rivian and Ford is because they actually supported ISO 15118 from early on. Like, Fords have always been able to plug-in charge on the Electrify America network. Well, maybe not from the very beginning, but they added plug-in charge support extremely quickly. And then Rivian, they don't support ISO 15118 plug-in charge with Electrify America like you'd think. The way they actually communicate with the Rivian Adventure network chargers when they do their plug-in charge on those, that is actually using ISO 15118 plug-in charge certificates provided by Rivian themselves. So that is why Rivian vehicles are also actually plug-in charging on Tesla's supercharger network. It's because Tesla is using ISO 15118 just like Electrify America, and obviously Fords have been doing ISO 15118 plug-in charge for, I think they were actually the first brand to support that actually, and then Rivian uses it exclusively with their own chargers. So that's why those vehicles are plug-in charging on the supercharger network. Meanwhile, GM, I don't actually think those vehicles support ISO 15118. Yes, you can plug and charge a GM vehicle on an EVgo station, but I don't think it's using ISO 15118. I think it's actually using EVgo's auto charge standard, which is a complete and totally different method from ISO 15118 certificates. And so that is why I think that GM vehicles actually can't plug and charge on Tesla superchargers, is because right now they don't support ISO 15118 plug and charge. And that's how Tesla wants to do it, which actually, considering the securities within these payment methods, I actually understand why Tesla prefers to use ISO 15118 and not the auto charge standard like what EVgo uses. And this is probably why Volvo and Polestar can't use plug and charge on Tesla's supercharger network either. It's because those vehicles also don't use ISO 15118 for plug and charge. So that probably clears why they still have to go through the Tesla app or their vehicle's respective apps to activate the charger. And that pretty much covers the latest automakers joining the network. I haven't heard of anyone else joining just yet. But now we have to talk about the charging infrastructure because there are major announcements from actually both Tesla and Iona that I would like to cover in this video as well. Reason why this is important is because Tesla is obviously a NACS infrastructure. It's kind of obvious. But finally, one of my biggest complaints with the supercharger network that I've been screaming at along with so many others is right now Tesla superchargers, at least the current ones in the ground, they currently can't actually charge 800 volt class vehicles without some weird workaround that is usually determined by how the 800 volt class vehicle is designed in the first place. The Tesla supercharger network was optimized for Tesla vehicles, which is for the most part a 400 volt class EV. Cybertruck now is a 800 volt class, but again, superchargers were mostly optimized for the sexy lineup, which is the 400 volt class, which means if you want to bring an 800 volt class vehicle there, you're going to have a bit of an issue because those superchargers can't get up to the voltage required. So in the case of the Porsche Taycan and the Lucid Air, they'd have to use built-in voltage boosters, which only support so much power throughput, the Lucid being 50 kilowatts, and I think 50 kilowatts is standard on the Taycan, but you can option and a 150 kilowatt booster, it at least makes it usable. And then Hyundai's EGMP platform vehicles that are 800 volt class, they actually run the energy through the rear motor's inverter. That's how they boost the voltage. Kind of interesting, actually. But even that only tops out over like 100 kilowatts or something like that. So it's still not the fast speeds that all of those vehicles can achieve. Well, now Tesla has finally addressed this issue. They have finally announced the V4 cabinet. And of course, V4 does actually support 1000 volts. So now it is a charging cabinet optimized for both Tesla's sexy lineup and the Cybertruck and 800 volt class vehicles in general. Awesome. And we also learned some more details about these new V4 cabinets because we've already known about the stalls, but Tesla's actually been installing a lot of V4 stalls. Problem is, for the past year or so, they've only had V3 cabinets attached to them. So is Tesla going to retrofit that? I don't know, but if I had to guess, they're probably not going to. So yeah, we already know what the V4 stall looks like. It's basically a much taller urban supercharger stall, if you haven't seen what those look like. And those stalls actually come with a couple important features. Obviously, the 1000 volt version of the NACS connector, so that way, yeah, I can handle the voltage and such. But also, every single V4 stall is going to have a magic dock built in, at least here in the US, because in Europe, every EV there, including Tesla's, all use the same standard already, so no need for adapters to be built in. But at least here in North America, yes, there will be CCS adapters built into the superchargers, so that way you can still use these V4s without needing to buy a separate adapter from Tesla. And also, for the first time ever, we're going to actually have payment terminals, so that way, if it's a work vehicle and you want to use a work or company card, hey, you can easily pay using that method. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love plug and charge, but there are times where some vehicles just don't support plug and charge outright, or maybe I just happen to want to use a different card, or maybe somebody else wants to pay for the charging session. That's a potential possibility. But then also for the vehicles that don't support plug and charge, honestly, I hate the activating the charger through the app method. Seriously, I hate that most of today's chargers function where you need to download another app, you need to give them another email and then create a new password and such, and then you're basically relying on an IT stack to try to activate this charger, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I hate the app experience. Everybody else hates the app experience. We all just want a credit card reader that works. In my electric car reviews, where I've done 4, the 4th one isn't uploaded yet, but I have actually reviewed 4 GM electric vehicles, and every single time I took them to the charge point station, never used an app. I used a card on my Apple Watch here. That's how I activate the charging station. Nobody likes having to go through their phone, creating a separate account, and just, yeah, nobody likes that experience. So thankfully, Tesla is now supporting credit card payment at the station. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's the V4 stalls. I'm trying to talk about the V4 cabinets. So these new V4 cabinets are capable of outputting 500 kilowatts to a single stall, which is pretty darn cool. One V4 cabinet is able to power up to 8 stalls at once. Now, what are the power limitations? Because if there's anything we know about version 2 and version 3 superchargers as of today, if you plug an electric car into every single stall there and all the cars are thirsty for power, the site is actually going to be extremely limited in the power it'll be able to give out, because despite that you think a V3 supercharger can give out 250 kilowatts at one post and there's 4 posts per cabinet, that should mean the cabinets should do a megawatt output, right? Well, no. When you actually take a look at the labels, which I have done myself, it actually produces about 360 kilowatts. So that means across 4 posts, the 4 posts can only pull 360 kilowatts at one time, assuming that it doesn't have another V3 cabinet it can pull from. In most circumstances it can, but if you got the whole site full, then, well, now you don't have another cabinet you can pull from because that cabinet's busy charging all the other cars on it. And you'll pretty much end up with every car pulling about 75 kilowatts, somewhere around there. Yeah, it's a bit of an issue. So if I had to guess, if the entire V4 site with a V4 cabinet is full, I'm guessing, knowing Tesla's history with bare minimum power output at at a full station at both V2 and V3 sites. My guess is if an entire V4 site is full, everyone's going to be pulling around 75-ish kilowatts yet again. We don't actually know how much power the cabinet is able to output to all of the stalls at once. We don't know, but all we know is the amount of power it can output to a single stall is 500 kilowatts. And it's at 1000 volts, and again, it can be hooked up to 8 stalls at a time, which is great for scalability. And then we have to talk about some Iona news. They're finally actually building their first charging station. It's somewhere in North Carolina. I don't remember exactly where. And I'll be honest, there's one thing about the station that they're putting in that's kind of irking me. They've got about 10 plugs at that particular site, which, hey, compared to most Electrify America sites, 10 plugs is pretty darn good. And also, thank God they finally confirmed what chargers they're using. Thank God they're using Alpitronics. Alpitronics are like, they're pretty much up there in reliability. We all know Tesla superchargers are extremely reliable, though actually I think Alpitronics are a step above that because, believe it or not, you might probably don't know this about Tesla superchargers, and it's because they're so good with their maintenance, but actually the cables fail a lot more frequently just because Tesla's always overdriving them. It's just unlike every single third-party charge point operator that we know of today, Tesla is actually great on getting on the 8-ball and doing preventative maintenance by swapping the cables early. And should a cable happen to fail before the maintenance team gets to it, well, they find out right away and they get it replaced ASAP. The thing is, you guys just don't know that's the thing because they are so good at getting on the 8-ball and doing this maintenance. But Alpitronics, dude, those things are built to last. They are some of the most robust, durable chargers you could ever imagine. They are all over Europe, and especially in northern climates as well. They're great for the wintertime. They're great for the summertime. They're great everywhere, and thank goodness they finally come to the US, and these are the chargers that Iona is using. They're also pretty darn capable as well. Now, the one thing about this site that kind of irks me just a little bit is their ratio of NACS to CCS plugs. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I guess it's kind of okay for today, though as the future progresses and we get more vehicles putting NACS ports on them, I think they probably might want to reevaluate the amount of NACS plugs versus CCS plugs, because from what I can see in the pictures, 2 chargers are NACS only. There's 2 NACS plugs per charger, and there's only 2 chargers are completely with NACS plugs, and the other 3 chargers are all CCS. No CHAdeMO, which makes sense because CHAdeMO is pretty much dead here in the US, if I'm being honest. I was kind of hoping for more of a 50-50 split because at least the way it is now, we have 4 NACS plugs and 6 CCS. I was kind of hoping for like 5 or something like that, so it kind of irks me that this is the way it's set up. But then again, I'm not entirely sure how I could do it any better because, again, we have the dual standards here. You never know what type of vehicle is going to show up with what type of plug, so you just don't know. Man, it would be nice if we agreed on one standard in the beginning. This is what happens when you're in a transitional period. It sucks. And it hurts your brain a lot. So yeah, the good news is Iona is getting their chargers in the ground. They've got one site where the chargers are actually in the ground. They're not commissioned yet, and I think it's because they're working on the building facilities and such, because they're actually supposed to have amenities that drivers want. They're basically making a gas station, but instead of gas pumps, it's electric vehicle chargers. Why is it in the style of a gas station? It's because, I don't know. Isn't it because they have amenities that drivers actually want, like canopies or a convenience store with windshield wiper thingamabobs so you can clean the windshield, trash cans, restrooms, food? I don't know. Aren't these all things that drivers would want when they're stopping on a road trip? So yeah, this is a big thing I've been pushing for. I don't understand why there's some people out there who just absolutely hate the idea of just turning today's gas stations into EV charging stations. What's wrong with a gas station? Aside from the fact that, yeah, it's pumping gas instead of electrons. Seriously, what's wrong with a gas station? And that is basically going to conclude the news for tonight. It is currently 11:28, and I have a crap ton of editing to do, and I'll probably be pulling an all-nighter tonight. So, thank you for watching. Do me a favor and interact with the stuff below. My name is DeWolf, Random Alpha, signing out.